I don't know about y'all, but I'm hoping Ashton Jeanty is the next Bo Jackson. And if you also are on the Jeanty hype train and you're trying to get yourself a jersey, $5 super chat when I go live. I go live every Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday in the off season. Friday, Monday when we do our Madden Lives. Also, Tuesday and Thursdays, though, are a big opportunity to join the show. I also get that people are busy. So if you don't have the opportunity to join us when we're live, $5 super thanks to be entered in a Jeanty jersey raffle, which we will announce the winner Friday, May 30th, live here on this show. Raider Nation, what's going on? It's Mitchell Renz here, host of the Raiders Report. And coming up on today's show, the Las Vegas Raiders received more evidence of a great 2025 NFL draft. During the offseason, I'm always trying to make new content. And when my real ones are asking for something, I'm going to try to be able to go out there and provide. So I saw a really cool article from PFF that revealed which 2025 draft classes have played the most snaps and have just the most experience coming from college. I'm somebody that loves a plan, and I love what this regime is doing for the Las Vegas Raiders because when you set a plan up and you're able to go out there and execute that plan, in my mind, that's even more evidence of this Raiders team finally getting this ball rolling and doing things that smart organizations do. So the Raiders 2025 NFL draft class had the second most snaps, 22,000 snaps played. The reason why I love that is because the Raiders knew that they were going to require these rookies to be able to step up right away and go out there and give the Raiders a shot if their name is called, and I don't care if it's on a Sunday, Monday Night Football, Thursday Night Football, AFC West game. We are going to need all of our rookies this upcoming season to step up. So when I found out the fact that the Raiders were only one of 5 teams that their rookie draft class eclipsed 20,000 snaps overall, I wanted to be able to sit up here and tell y'all why I think that that is ultimately very important. So the numbers that you see right next to the players are just how many snaps they played in college. Also, I did the division because the Raiders had 11 players in total. The Raiders, based on per player played, well, I'll say that a few times fast, ended up coming out as like the 6th most snaps per player. Now, I do want to roll through and show you all the snap counts for all of the NFL teams. That way you guys can just get a better idea of kind of how the Raiders stack up against the rest of the National Football League. The Raiders are in there again at number 2 behind only the Seattle Seahawks in terms of snaps played by the players that are coming up and coming in. At number 8, you can see the defending Super Bowl champs there, the Philadelphia Eagles at 19,000. When you look from 9 to 16, the Raiders Week 1 matchup up against the New England Patriots, your AFC West rival at number 12 there with the Los Angeles Chargers. From 17 to 24, my eyes obviously go right to Kansas City. Give me a few FKCs down below, but they got 13,218. The team that comes in dead last in terms of 2025 draft class snap counts is the Denver Broncos with 8,000. Now, I'm not sitting up here saying the more snaps somebody plays, the better that draft class is. No, I am simply saying that I believe that what I just showed is more evidence of the Raiders executing their offseason plan, thus executing them having another solid 2025 NFL draft. So coming up here on today's show, I'm going to break down what I think that Raiders plan is. And if you've watched the show before, you probably know where I'm going to go with this one. But I'm going to talk about the Raiders having their plan, and I'm going to prove to everybody that they went out there and they freaking executed it. So the first thing that I think that the Raiders tried to do in the draft was they wanted and they did build solid draft depth. And we knew going into the draft, think about how many people were talking about it. The Raiders have a hole here. The Raiders have a hole here. Hell, I still hear people talking about the Raiders still have holes that need to be filled. Giggity. But for Spytek, he literally told himself, and he said it himself, that the Raiders wanted to add solid depth this offseason. And when you are able to add starters and you're able to add reliable backups, that's going to be important. You also know that this Raiders team wants to be physical. If you're planning on being as physical as what a lot of us are anticipating this upcoming season for the Silver and Black, you're going to need to have some depth. And you're going to need to have some depth that goes out there and is able to compete. Like, remember free agency, where fans were freaking out. Hey, we're not bringing back Nate Hobbs. Hey, we're not bringing back Robert Spillane. Hey, we're not bringing back insert whoever's name you want to throw in there. But the Raiders did that because I think that they knew, hey, We're going to go out. We're going to sign the guys that we want to sign in free agency because we believe in our ability to draft. John Spytek has always been a great draft mind. Pete Carroll's always been a great draft mind. And they believed in their ability to find players that would help them build depth instead of going out there and spending money on the open market in free agency. Now, I always say this, you will become a smarter Raider fan by watching this show. And I get it. Not many people are watching Raiders content May, June, and July, so I'm already going to tip my cap to the real ones out there. But I always say this, watch the show for 1 week. If you don't learn anything new, you can unsubscribe. It charges you nothing. I think that, though, there's a reason why we are the #1 most watched Raiders show the last 7 years. There's a reason why I put out a video every single day. I got commitment to excellence to the silver and black. I also got commitment to excellence to the nation, and I think that you guys will see that. We also have a lot of fun here, so make sure you're subscribed. Let's go to the next reason here of why I think that the Raiders, again, more evidence of a good draft. They executed their plan. They wanted players to go out there and that guys are going to compete. I don't know about you, but the more playing time that I got, and I'm talking college, very limited basis pitcher, but, growing up, middle school, high school, it starts at a young age. When you're used to playing, you're going to go out there and you're going to fight and claw for everything that you got. So because the Raiders lost some of those key players like I just mentioned, that's going to give a rookie an opportunity to go, you know what? I can take that job. You know what? That's an open position. I'm going to be able to go out there and I'm going to battle. I think it's also a cheaper way to replace a lot of players and still add competition. One of my biggest pet peeves with some NFL teams and some, honestly, just sports in general. You got guys making millions upon millions of dollars and they can just think that, hey, I don't got to show up to minicamp. I don't got to show up to anything unless I want to show up to it. That's not how this Raiders team is operating this season. If you are a little bit concerned that your linebacker room's a little bit thin, maybe your cornerback room's a little bit thin, you know what you should do? You should get a bunch of guys in there who are literally fighting for their jobs. They're literally fighting for an opportunity to get out on the field. A lot of one-year prove-it deals, a lot of two-year short-term prove-it deals, right? Like, we have a lot of players. Rookies are going to go out there and fight and claw for everything they got. But then when you combine that with some free agents that have to do the exact same thing, and if you have, instead of going out and spending a lot of money on Robert Spillane, let's get 4 to 5 linebackers that compete their absolute dicks off and can show that, you know what, we're going to find one guy in that bunch. If you're unable to bring back a Nate Hobbs for $48 million, you know what? Let's get a bunch of long, lanky corners that are also super athletic, have them compete their you-know-what's off, and then maybe somebody rises to the top. I love what this team is doing because this organization, when I say organization, Spytek and Pete Carroll, this is what they did in Tampa Bay, where they won a Super Bowl. This is what they did in Seattle, where they won a Super Bowl. So players who are used to playing will compete to continue playing, and I like that thought process a lot. This will be the pinned comment here on today's show, so if you are new to the channel, it means it's the #1 question that I want you to answer. It's also going to be pinned down in the comments section. So I want to know your thoughts on this Raiders regime. Do you believe in them? If you do, type I believe. If you are trying to believe, and I get it, a lot of Raiders fans are probably sitting there going, I want to believe, but it's hard to believe in the Raiders. And if you do not believe in Pete Carroll and John Spytek, let me know. My answer coming up after this YouTube ad break. I believe in this regime. If you clapped with me, hey, I just know this. I really do like what Spytek has done. I really like what Pete Carroll has done. But it started early on by going out and getting a Chip Kelly, by going out and getting, or I shouldn't say getting, giving Patrick Graham a raise, by giving Max Crosby a contract extension, by trading for a quarterback that finally gives us a shot, by going out and addressing good needs in free agency and having a really solid NFL draft. I'll still say this, there's still some needs that I'd like to see be filled, but you can at least see the path that the Raiders are on, and I think it's a good path. Let's go to the next reason here of why I believe that there's more evidence of the Raiders crushing this draft. This team wanted to draft leaders, and one of the things that I've been saying a lot this offseason is when you have a guy like Spytek and Tom Brady, who both come from that Michigan tree, they're not necessarily, I think, building just an NFL roster. I think that the way that they are designing this team, because Pete Carroll, again, has got this 3-year window potentially for, I think honestly they're trying to build the way like a college football program is built, where you need guys that want to be a part of something for the long haul. You need guys that can put their egos aside a little bit, and I think a great example of this is Ashton Jeanty. Chip Kelly said, hey, I know you're the best running back that has come out in the NFL in a while, but I want you to go in your stance because I don't want you to stand up straight. Some people would say, no, I'm not doing that. I'm Ashton Jeanty. Jeanty said, all right, coach, I'll go ahead and do that. But also, you need to draft leaders. Like, I want guys that give that extra 1%. I want guys that have that Max Crosby mentality. And out of the 11 players that the Raiders drafted, 9 were a team captain. When you have team captains, it means that you're willing to just bring on, I think, a little bit more. And for this team, we need a bunch of leaders at the lowest level. That way we can build something special. So the players that have an asterisk by them are people that were team captains in the year 2024. I should note that Darien Porter was a team captain, I believe, only for like 1 to 2 games. But look at all these team captains, man. I mean, Thornton Jr. and Bech were the only 2 that were not named team captain. But if you listen to anybody that talks about Bech, dude's an absolute rock star. Guy is an absolute stud in terms of having that Max Crosby mentality. And I know for a long, long time we've been wondering, when is this team going to figure it out? When are we going to have a draft class that we go, that's the draft class that's going to change it all? I do really think that this draft class has the potential to change it all. But in my mind, snaps are earned. They are not given. And just like being a team captain, that is something that is earned. That is not something that is given. So we got guys that can go out there and they played a lot of college football. We got guys that go out there and that are going to compete. And we got leaders in that building. That sounds like something pretty damn good to me, especially when you look at the plan that the Raiders are trying to do. Let's go to the final reason here on today's show of why I think that you can have more evidence that the Raiders crushed this draft. The silver and black are in win now mode. And early this offseason, there was a lot of questions. Will the Raiders try to win? Are the Raiders going to try to do this rebuild process? Spytek has made it clear. Pete Carroll has made it very clear. And this team is trying to win right now. So when you're trying to win right now, it's extremely important to have players that, given the opportunity, are going to be able to step in there and they're going to be able to deliver. So the Raiders went out and said, okay, we're going to draft players that have tons of college football experience because we believe in our coaches. We believe in our guys to get the most out of them. And the Raiders need their rookies to step up. We need these guys to be ready in year one. And maybe that's an unfair thing to ask, but you know what? When you're signing the dotted line and you're putting millions of dollars of guaranteed money next to your name, with all due respect, you should be ready to play right away. And I don't think that any of the Raiders players that they drafted could hurt them in a negative way. So one of the cool stats that I was able to find, it's from PFF. It is known as WAA. And if you're like, Mitch, what the hell does WAA stand for? This is what it stands for. WAA stands for wins above average. It's a metric used to evaluate the performance of a college football players, specifically in the context of the NFL draft. WAA quantifies how many wins a player is worth above the average college football player. WAA is designed to help evaluators assess player performance in a more objective and data-driven way. It is a standardized metric that allows for cross-positional valuation and can help predict future value at both the player and team levels. So when you consider the fact that the Raiders also, by the way, had some of these players that none of these guys had a negative WAA. So I'm just going to read off my list here real quick. Ashton Jeanty had a 0.33. Bech had a 0.35. And if you're like, what are these numbers exactly? I would say anything over a 0.10 is a pretty good number overall. So you got then Darien Porter. He's a 0.17. Caleb Rogers, 0.07. Charles Grant, there wasn't any information on it just because he played at a smaller school. Thornton Jr., 0.14. I think that's because of his deep field ability to stretch the field. Pegues, 0.20. Tonka Hemingway, 0.04. Nothing on Cam Miller. Nothing on Tommy Mellott. Cody Lindenberg was 0.04. So, I know that I'm throwing out those numbers and they might not mean anything to you, but to me, I look at it as, imagine if you were looking at a PFF grade. And when PFF gives out their grades, there's certain grades that are dark green, that are light green, no color, and then in the red. Out of all 11 players that the Raiders drafted, their WAA was in the green. Bech's was the highest. Now, again, I don't have anything on Mellott, Cam Miller, just because there's not enough data from some of those FCS schools, but they played quarterback, so those numbers would have actually been even higher. I actually bet if they could have found the WAA from Mellott, he would have actually had the highest out of all players that were drafted in the entire 2025 NFL draft just because of the impact that he made at his college level. So not only did the Raiders go out, build solid depth, they went out and got guys that want to compete. They drafted a bunch of team captains, and they did all this because they are in win-now mode with players that every single one of those guys made their college teams a lot better. That, to me, is the ultimate evidence that John Spytek and Pete Carroll went out and absolutely crushed the 2025 NFL Draft, and I hope that you guys enjoyed this video. If you made it this far in the show, huge shout out to all of y'all. Please don't be afraid. Give me a like. It does help us out a lot. And a friendly reminder one more time that if you want a chance to win that Jeanty jersey, $5 super chat while we are live or $5 super thanks. Winner will be announced Friday, May 30th, live on this show.